When MultiVersus was originally released, Warner Brothers had a vast amount of related intellectual properties to use on the depth of the video gaming experience for players to choose from. But from the initial roster, there were clear questions, outright criticism, on curious praise for one of the characters depicted in the game. On through the lifespan of the experience, there were various opinions of this particular character, but the speculative scenario is this: what was the purpose of Reindog in MultiVersus? Throughout the era of MultiVersus, there were different characters for players to select from, all depending on the said playstyle or impressions by gamers at which character might be beneficial to them. With all of the various well-known characters being adapted for the game, there was one that stood out among all of the others, as there were interesting details or even theories pertaining to the said character. From information now known out of any character in the entire experience, Reindog was the most mysterious, the most unknown, and according to theories, the most unneeded out of any within the game. There were a number of opinions with Reindog, as well as the circumstances for Reindog in the game, none of which were confirmed either by Player First Games or Warner Brothers, due to the tumultuous situation of the game during its development or implementation and ultimately its cancellation. Nearly everything about Reindog was unknown, as this was clearly intentional with the overall premise for MultiVersus, which led to theories and speculations for the character. Due to the unique and confusing premise of Reindog, the character was consistently wondered about, which led to one of the most frequently asked questions in relation to MultiVersus. At the time, there were differentiating opinions about Reindog, besides the official information for the character or the hinted lore depicted with the character from other references. An early opinion held that due to the visibility of MultiVersus, Player First Games, the studio that developed MultiVersus, asked for permission to create a character of their own, or to mandate a character of their own, so the studio had more exposure within the video gaming industry, as Reindog could have been or was an advertisement for the gaming studio, as Reindog was the only technical character in the game to be completely original, as there were other plans for further original creations, but none of them were ever realized. A common assumption was that the character was conceived of due in part to every other character in the game having some sort of copyright or intellectual property based condition when being adopted into the game, or requirements for specific interpretations in MultiVersus. Reindog originally had dialogue from a voice actor, but these lines were later removed from the final version of the game. As to why, the reasons were never known. Basically, Player First desired a character that was simple to deal with and not overly complicated with legalities, as the other characters associated with the game were naturally unavoidable. The premise of MultiVersus had it that many characters in the game were given basic depictions or lore for the wide-spanning fighting experience. The original plan was by Warner Brothers to have further seasons develop the game as it progressed. That would have taken potentially years to do, as it was a plot mechanism to keep players interested with MultiVersus, and to have them remain as players to learn and immerse themselves with as much as possible from the game. But due to MultiVersus eventually being consumed by internal and external factors, none of this was ever implemented. Due to the unknown details of MultiVersus, consensus had that Reindog to be a decent character, but for players to not necessarily think of the details too much or too little, due to the unfinished premise of the game MultiVersus. So Reindog as a character remained unknown, and the purpose of Reindog in the character's relation to MultiVersus was never truly realized.